Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Claire. I am a Southeast Queensland plant collector. I suppose primarily I focus on Aroids. I collect Aroids. I'm quite keen on Aroids and I am a financial member of the Aroid Society of Australia, which is the topic of today's video. Wednesday just gone for me filming, the 9th of October, was an Aroid Society Australia general meeting. I went along. I dragged my husband, he slept in the car while I went inside. So at the meeting there was a presentation by the treasurer. His name is Jordan. I won't say his surname just in case he doesn't want it on YouTube, but it was a fantastic presentation. It was about an hour long and I took some notes and I thought I may as well share the main things I took out of it, my I guess main learnings, and share them with you because they were really helpful, especially as I am trying to, I suppose, delve into the world of more high maintenance plants. Eventually I will be wanting to pollinate, seed, grow from seed as my plants mature and as they grow and become plants that create babies. So, title of his presentation on Wednesday night was Growing Aroids in the Subtropics. If you weren't aware, Southeast Queensland is considered to be in a subtropical climate zone, climate classification. So not quite what our tropical plants, hence the name tropical, not quite what our tropical plants are after. Lower humidity, more variant temperatures, lower temperatures sometimes than what they are wanting. And so we have to do a little bit more sometimes to take care of them. As Jordan described it, an aroid is a plant with a spathe and a spadix. The combination of a spathe and a spadix is an inflorescence, or what we might consider a flower. The best example of that is if you just go to Bunnings, you go to Coles, you go to Big W, and you see those really basic anthuriums, and they have that red leaf looking thing with the little pointy bit coming out the top. That is the inflorescence. That is the spathe and the spadix. And that is what sets an aroid apart from a different type of plant, and the combination of plants that have a spathe and a spadix, or have an inflorescence, are part of the aroid family. In terms of pollination, most aroids have perfect flowers in that they have a combination of male flowers and female flowers on the one spadix. But in order to avoid self-pollination and therefore a limitation of the gene pool, the female and the male flowers become receptive or do their thing at different times, which is really frustrating for growers and collectors, but is just really helpful for the plant, I suppose, to create a more hardy specimen that will survive and whose children will survive. You know, you want the strongest genes. So the male stage happens after the female stage, which is interesting. The male stage is the pollen that you'll see, so it's the male flowers that produce pollen, and the female flowers, when they become receptive, they produce, kind of looks like water droplets, but it's just like little sticky stuff that'll trap the pollen and it will allow it to, I guess, stay and not just float away. So because the male stage happens after the female stage, you kind of need to have two flowers going on at the same time, I guess, to be growing at different times, so that when one is in the female stage, the other is in a male stage. Another possibility, which apparently a few people can do, is you can freeze your pollen. I don't have any experience with this, and I don't know how good it is, but people, it seems, have mixed opinions or mixed experiences with this, but I guess it's worth experimenting with one time. Early morning is a good time to have a look at your inflorescence to see what stage it's at. That way, if it's at the female stage, you'll be able to see the droplets or the liquid, and it won't be confused for water after you've misted it or after the humidifiers have been on, or if you've watered it, that sort of thing. Fun little facts, I suppose, about an inflorescence or about aroids when they are trying to be pollinated or trying to pollinate. The spadix will heat up and the pheromones will travel further. That's to try and encourage your bugs, your insects to, I suppose, pollinate, do the deed for the plants, I suppose. But we can do it ourselves. Jordan said that he generally just uses his hands. He just kind of wipes an inflorescence in the male stage to collect the pollen, and then wipes a female inflorescence or an inflorescence, a spadix, during the female stage to deposit that pollen. Apparently, brushes, makeup brushes specifically, clean ones, are good for this, probably because a lot of the brushes have been designed to collect powder and then deposit powder. So probably you could get like an eyeshadow brush or something. If pollination is successful, the inflorescence will usually remain on the plant. So if it's not successful, it will die off. And you can usually tell within a month whether or not it will stay. And if it remains green, then you'll know it's successful. If it goes brown or if it just appears to not be happy, then it probably didn't stick. And then what will happen after it has been successfully pollinated is it will grow berries, and in each berry is usually a seed or two. So they are little raised bumps on the spadix. You need to allow them to ripen on the inflorescence. If you take them off too early, they won't be viable, nothing will happen. And usually they will kind of begin to pop out a little bit. To me, they look like corn on the cob, but as if the cob has produced far too much corn and there's not enough space and they're all trying to push each other out to get the best spot. That's how I see it. Once the berries have ripened, then you can take them off and you can kind of squeeze them to remove the seeds. You can't germinate the seeds while they're still in the berries. Will definitely rot before they germinate in any way, so you need to remove the seeds from the berries. You can just then dispose of the berries, kind of clean the seeds and try and germinate them. There's a few different ways you can do that. You can do it with sphagnum moss, you can do it with moist paper towel. Generally, you need to keep them moist and keep them humid, so you can put them in some sort of container, whether that be a specialized propagating box from Bunnings, or if that's just your Chinese takeaway container that you keep the lid closed so that the humidity stays in. The seeds will then, if they germinate, will produce a root before they produce leaves, and they will produce small leaves after that. So different aroids, their inflorescences kind of look different. Again, if I remind you of your basic generic anthuriums, the spadix is really quite separated from the spathe. You can definitely see that they are distinct parts of the inflorescence, whereas in some plants, such as alocasia, some aglaonemas as well, the spathe is actually wrapped fairly tightly around the spadix. So if you want to pollinate an alocasia or an aglaonema, for example, you probably just need to cut that spathe off, and that won't do any damage to the plant as long as you don't cut the spadix as well. And that way you can access the spadix, A, to see what stage it's in, or B, to pollinate it if it's ready for that. However, an easy way to propagate alocasia is oftentimes they send out pups. According to Jordan, that's because the inflorescences are harder to take. I think that's what my understanding was, and so they send out pups to ensure that they will live on even if pollination is unsuccessful. and they can be propagated from stem cuttings, alocasia. Apparently you can cut them into like little 1 centimeter chunks and they should propagate from there. I am not game enough to do that with any of my alocasia. I'm very attached to my alocasia, even though they're very temperamental for me, and that's probably why I'm not game enough to do it. But all of your aroids, whether they be seeds, whether they be cuttings, whether they be pups, they need humidity in order to shoot, because, as I said earlier, they are from a tropical climate. And that is what they're used to, and that is ideal for them. All right, moving on to care tips. Generally, they do require, that's aroids in general, high humidity. They need good drainage, and they need warm temperatures. They don't all like it hot though. Some from high altitudes prefer cooler temperatures. But no matter what, all aroids require high humidity, which is something I struggle with where I am. If you can see this Pastor next to me here, he's got quite a brown tip, and that's because I am not consistently providing it with the humidity that it needs in my room, because this is my bedroom. It's not great. If I have a look, the current humidity is 32% and they need like 80. So not doing great at the moment. Broke my humidifier, need to get another one. Eventually it will happen. So humidity, humidity, humidity. Some cultivars within the same species are tougher than others, so I suppose it just depends who you buy it from, how they were grown, what they were feeling that day. You can't really, I guess, guarantee a hardy plant when it comes to aroids. In terms of a potting media, really loose, really well draining. A, that supports really great root growth. B, a lot of aroids are epiphytic in that they grow in like nothing, so they don't need a really dense mix in order to survive. Jordan uses a combination of volcanic rock, charcoal, perlite and orchid bark. My combination is orchid bark, charcoal, perlite, and either coir, or I just use like the succulent potting mix and mix a small amount of that in to give to fill in some of those gaps. And something that Jordan suggests, and something that I actually do a little bit as well, you might be able to see on this silver cloud here, is I wrap or kind of put sphagnum moss around the base, and that A, kind of helps with the humidity, and B, if there's aerial roots coming along, it helps promote them, or helps them grow strong and healthy and stuff, instead of just being like weird brown nubs. They're more of that cream, and they're longer, and they're just happier. Jordan uses squat, or pots that are more squat, which generally speaking they're about as tall as they are wide, so they're shorter, and they don't need deep rich soil. They just need, I guess, something for their roots to cling onto, and just something to give them nutrients. And so in order to avoid root rot and to get, I guess, imitate their natural conditions as much as possible, he uses squat pots. And this is probably an example of one of my squatters pots. My Brazil is in here. I just potted it up today, if you've seen my repotting video. It's 11 centimeters in diameter, and let's do some very bad measurements. It's actually shorter than it is wide, so this would be a squat pot, and I just bought this at Bunnings. But there are select places around the place that actually do more specific and like really focus on squat pots, and you can get plastic ones. Another thing to note about aroids is the conditions can bring out their color. So light, pot size, fertilizer, especially with a few of your colored philodendrons like your Prince of Orange, probably your darker ones like your cardinals or your imperials, depending on how much light you give them or how well you look after them, what sort of conditions you put them in. That'll influence how vivid their color is, or whether it's more dull. If you're in the tropics or kind of the subtropics, if you're trying to cut them to propagate them, aim to do that between October and April. So what, mid-spring to early autumn, but don't do it in the cooler months because that's just not what they're used to. You're not going to have as great a strike rate and they won't really be as successful. That's pretty much it for what I wanted to say. I guess a final note to leave on is Jordan compared your philodendrons to dogs, fairly easygoing, fairly low maintenance, they live to please. They're a really good beginner aroid if that's what you're looking for, but anthuriums are more high maintenance, they're more fussy, a bit trickier, they're kind of like cats in that sense. You know, they might like you, they will pretend that the fact that they're thriving under your care is a complete coincidence, not because of anything you did. So a philodendron is a really good aroid to start with if you're looking to get into the aroid community, but I do warn you, it is a, what's the word that I want? Beware of falling down the rabbit's hole, because you will not be able to ever get out. Case in point. All right, I hope some of those tips there, I guess, gave you a bit of help, a bit of confirmation, a bit of guidance when it comes to your aroids. Let me know if you have any aroids that you're hoping to get to seed. Yeah, and good luck with that. I would love to see how that's going, or if you have had any success, give any extra tips or tricks that you have in the comments below so everyone else can help learn from you. If you do live in Australia and you are not currently part of the Aroid Society of Australia, I highly recommend it. They have a marketplace where there's plant sales. They have a number of meetings throughout the year. Really great community, really educational, amazing people in there, and I definitely think it's worth it. It's only like $25 a year, which in the savings that I've had through plants already and through the knowledge that I've gained and the connections that I've made with people, it's already paid itself back, and I've been only in the community for what, like 4 months. So I definitely recommend it. I will put that link in the description below if you want to check them out, and I will link their Instagram page as well. But thank you so much for watching. If you liked this content, don't forget to like the video, share it if you know anyone with aroids and they need some help with propagating, dealing with their inflows, you know, pollinating their inflorescences. Let them know about this, and I hope you have a really great week. I'll see you next week in a new video. Bye.